Thanks for coming on. Andy speaking. Friday 19th of August, just coming up 6 o'clock. Thanks for coming on. Looking ahead to games in Scotland, England and the National Leagues. And before we get into it, just say thank you to people for the emails with regards to the English League bets I've given. Look, I just got to be totally honest, it isn't like that every week. Rest assured, if I made profits like that every week from back in English football, I wouldn't be sat here. I would be sat on the other side of the world on a beach, just logging on and betting those every week. So all I'm saying is don't use what we've done so far in the English leagues as a yardstick. The profits, not the profit, the profit on investment is usually half of that. We'll come to that anyway. But I've made one adjustment this season to something as I said, for people that listened or didn't come on last time, I made one adjustment to something I've always done, and I went back through all the results over decades, and I noticed there was one thing that I could have done which would have given us a lot more bets. I've done that one thing. That's why we're getting more volume of bets, and if it follows the trajectory of those previous decades, then we can end up with 6, 7, 8 bets a week, with around about a 50% strike rate, and I'm hopeful of a 15 to 20% profit on turnover throughout the course of the season. But we'll come to that. Let's get on with the most important thing, which is Scottish football. Right, Premiership, Hibernian Rangers 12, 23, 65. There's a bit in Rangers. Not very often you'll hear me say that. They should be 8 to 15. They're 6 to 10. 0.07 at 65%. Perfectly acceptable on figures. If you wanted to bet it, don't let me put you off. I don't like Hibernian. I'd expect Rangers to win this game. Only note of caution: Rangers played PSV on the other night in that European game. It was 2-2. It wasn't an away fixture, it was a home fixture, so I don't think it'll have too much bearing on this, but you never can tell. But just to bear that in mind. But Rangers have got far more quality than Hibs, little doubt about that. 0.07 at 65%, for a good thing. It's not very often you'll find Rangers with that in brackets. Dundee United St Mirren 40, 24, 36. I'm no fan of Dundee United. They sort of rank alongside Hibernian and Aberdeen for me as distinctly unreliable, always underpriced. St Mirren, there's 0.45 in it at 36%. It's whether you think that's enough. And if you look at this game here and you look at this game here, if you're even contemplating backing St Mirren, you got to be really backing Livingston and St Johnstone. We'll come to those games in a minute, but 0.45 at 36% is perfectly acceptable. Motherwell Livingston 44, 22, 34. The well done well last week. I thought it was a decent performance. This game lends itself to the draw purely on we're finding value in both teams, but the value certainly is with Livingston at 0.53. There's a bit in Motherwell, 0.15 is how you see it really. Ross Kilmarnock 45, 23, 32, 0.17 with Ross. Difficult to assess this game with any amount of confidence, other than to say Kilmarnock and Ross are roughly around sort of, this is 2.2, this is 2.25, so it's there's not a great deal in it. If forced to pick, it would obviously have to be Ross, because on figures they're better and there's more in the price. St Johnstone Aberdeen 34, 24, 42. I think they're underpriced, 5 to 4. I've seen them shorter than that, and it beggars belief that the Racing Post put Aberdeen up to be the best of the rest, i.e. finish third behind Rangers and Celtic. Other people have tipped up. I cannot get my head around that. They are so far away from being the third best team in the Premier League. They're not a patch on Hearts. Hearts squad is different class to that of Aberdeen. You know, Aberdeen, as I say, they rank alongside Hibernian, Dundee United, maybe Motherwell, you know, and possibly, you know, well, I'm not going to say St Mirren or someone, but, you know, they are not at the level of Hearts, Aberdeen. No way. I just fail to see why people go over that old ground. You know, we've bet them once this season, they've won. I probably won't back Aberdeen again. There's 0.88 in St Johnstone. Again, it's how you see it, but when you're comparing it to these, it certainly warrants close attention. 11-4, about a 15-8 shot is good value. Not saying they'll win. There's a 66% chance they won't. Celtic Hearts, 66, 22, 12, 5 points in Hearts. It's a no bet purely on figures. You wouldn't back Celtic at 2-9 at 66%, where you can get 6-10, about a 65% chance here with Rangers, and that in the price. Best bet on the coupon. I mean, look, Rangers should win, and there's value in it, but I think in terms of overall bets, you know, value to rating ratio, St Johnstone at 0.88 is probably a good bet. Not saying they're going to win, because like I said, there's 66% chance they won't. Right, Partick Inverness, 44, 24, 32. This game's tonight. I think it's a tough call, really do. No fan of either of these two teams, really. Partick favourites on my book and with the bookmakers, rightly so. There's 0.05 in them. It doesn't interest me. I couldn't even bring myself. I wouldn't want to back Partick if I was going to sit at home and watch this game. I don't think it's the most inspiring contest. I think Partick are the most likeliest winners. From a betting point of view, it's a non-entity for me. But I don't think that. I mean, I watched Dundee last week, and from what I've seen of every other team so far in the Championship, I think they are head and shoulders above. And it didn't even click last week for them. I think, you know, Arbroath stuck at it. They're a stubborn side, Arbroath. They really are probably the toughest side to beat in the whole of the Scottish leagues. They're up there with Montrose. And, you know, I thought the amount of chances Dundee created, they could have had twice as many goals as what they got. And that's ominous for the rest of this division. It really is. You know, we backed them, and I did say to you that I had to back them when I looked at the squad, and there's nothing out, nobody's near them in this division. You know, they look to me. Once Derek McInnes took over at Kilmarnock last season, I said I can't see any other winner than Kilmarnock, and they did go on to win it. And even now, I think Dundee look so much more stronger than any of these, and they look stronger than what Kilmarnock did in comparison last season. And you know, from what I saw on the eye, there can only be more improvement to come. Once they're fully up to speed, I think they'll run away with this division, Dundee. You know, and people talk about these as potential winners. Not a cat in hell's chance. I really don't see it. And you know, Dundee are far better than these. I think everybody else is really seriously. Even though we're in August, I can't see anybody touching Dundee. It's going to take a massive, you know, a massive load of unsettlement for those not to win. Anyway, let's get back to this. Arbroath Queen's Park. Sorry, 55-22. That's wrong. That should be 23. 0.03 in there. They've not really. I can't see them losing this Arbroath. Put it that way. I can't see them losing it. It's whether you think they're going to score enough, and that's the thing. That is a problem with Arbroath. Is they just don't score enough goals. They're bottom of the table. Ignore that. They're far better than that. They played 2 0-0 draws up until last week when they got a stuffing from Dundee. Dundee put 4 past them, but as I say, they're streets ahead. Arbroath need to win. I think Dick Campbell will get a tune out of them tomorrow. I do. I think they'll win. I think it will probably be ugly. It'll be 1-0, something like that. But I'd expect them to win. You know, it's and they have to start winning. And I think they will tomorrow. They're not. That's not enough. You can play with it and stuff, but I don't think it's enough. But I do think they'll win. I may be slightly guilty of underestimating Queen's Park and Edinburgh this season. We'll see. We'll know more in a month's time. But we'll come to that. Cove Air 54 23 23. Cove should be odds on for this. I've got no doubts about that at all. I think the positions in the table flat as air. Hamilton should have turned them over. Excuse me. Absolutely no question about that. Hamilton should have won. They were 2 down at Queen's Park. Queen's fell apart. Air are in a false position in the table. I've absolutely no doubt about that. Cove should be odds on for this. They've not lost at Balmoral. They never lost a game there last season. I know this is a step up in terms of quality. They've played once here this season. They turned Wraith over 2-0. Now, if Wraith were at home to Air, and Wraith had played one game, hypothetical, and were at home to Air tomorrow, and Wraith had won their one home game 2-0, you would not be getting 5-4 about Wraith to beat Air. But because Cove have come up, but as I say, it's been years since they've lost a home game. Good enough to beat Wraith 2-0. They'll beat Air. I'm pretty certain of that. 5-4, about a 5-6 shot. Good value. Hamilton Wraith 44 24 32. Now Hamilton, they've played 3, drawn 3. I've spoken to somebody that's watched them twice, and I've read all reports as well, but I trust what somebody says to me. They could have won all 3 of those games. Partick, they were in control of that game. Now, had Hamilton, again, hypothetically, won all 3 of those games, would we be getting 13-8? That'd be 4-6, something like that. 44%, it's not the highest figure, but I think, they're 5-4 on my figures. They're 13-8. I think there's value there. Wraith, 15-8 is too short. I've had good reports about Wraith, and I did say in the lead up to last week's game, they expected to win last weekend, and they did. I've had decent feedback again this week, but I think Hamilton are a decent side. I really do. They've 3 draws. They could have easily been victories. I think I'd back them to win tomorrow, Hamilton. Morton Dundee 28-22-50. For all the positive things I've said about Dundee, I don't think they warrant being odds on for tomorrow. Even money is what I'd want upwards of that to get involved. We're not getting that. We're getting 10-11. This 0.9 in Morton. I think the Ton have started okay. They're not the worst side in the division. They're capable. 0.9 at 28%. It's how you see it, really. It's what's your assessment of it. There's no doubt there's value in it, but are they going to beat Dundee? There's a 72% chance they're not. But you are being paid 0.9 at 28% is probably getting close to the mark where you would want involvement. But again, you are taking on a side which I think is going certainly the right way, and they're going to dish out some hammerings this season. Dundee, make no mistake about that. No one puts 4 past Arbroath. Best bet in this division, I think. Look, when all's said and done, you want a decent rating, don't you? With plenty of value, you're getting it here. 54%, 0.42 in it. That's probably the best bet in the league, isn't it? As I say, I'm not a fan of these. I think they're in a false position. They should certainly have got turned over by Hamilton, and Queens. I fell apart in the second half. Air could be coming into this game. 1 draw and 2 losses. What price would Cove be then? These are questions you have to weigh up. Right, let's rattle through League One quick. Airdrie, excuse me, 55, 23, 22. Odds on my book. They're 10-11. There's 0.11 in it. Again, it's whether you want to get involved. These are disappointing. I thought they were absolute nailed on last week to beat Edinburgh. Went 1 up and they folded. Really, really disappointed. To ship 4 goals at home to this lot is disappointing. They're untrustworthy. They're not betting material for me now after that. They could come here tomorrow and turn Airdrie over at the Excelsior. I don't see it, but they're capable. It's 0.11 at 55% is acceptable. Edinburgh Falkirk 31-24-45. 0.4 in Edinburgh. Again, as I just said about Queen's Park, I may well have underrated them. Nothing personal, because I don't think they should be in League One, and I will keep saying that. But they've had 2 wins from 3. They've got an up arrow next to them. Had I priced this game up at the start of the season, I would probably be all over this, but not this week, and that's indicative of their start. They're going the right way, but there's something about Edinburgh that somebody said to me last week. Maybe they're going to be a team that's better away from home because of the way they set up, and it's possible that when teams come onto them, they can hit them, and that's clearly what they've done at Alloa. So it'll be interesting to see how this game plays out. I think Falkirk are the better side, no doubt, but wouldn't discount Edinburgh. Kelty Dunfermline 25-23-52. Major disappointments Kelty Hearts have been. Dunfermline, I think, as I say about Dundee, I think they're the best side in this division. They shouldn't be 3-4 though. That's my only problem here. I think that odds on certainly 10-11, but not 3-4. I wouldn't want to touch Kelty though. Montrose Clyde 45-24-31. 2 real sides here of polar opposites. Montrose, tight as they come, haven't scored a goal yet this season. Clyde have scored 9 in 3. They've dished out a couple of hidings as well to Kelty and Queen of the South. Impossible not to rate Clyde as 31% chance in this game, because at the start of the season this would have probably been something like 52 to Montrose. Clyde would have been around the mid-20s, but because the way the season's gone, you have to adjust things. Clyde are up at 31%. There's no question about it. I can't see how Montrose are odds on. I'm not saying that Montrose aren't going to win. They're rated to win this fixture, but being asked to take 3-4, which is 0.75 for a team that has not scored a goal in 3 games against a side that scored 9 in 3, that's madness. Regardless of the result of this game, okay, that you cannot make a single. There is absolutely zero case to be made for Montrose being odds on for this fixture. They've yet to win, they've yet to score, they've shipped 1 goal, but they're playing against a free-scoring Clyde side, and it's a sort of scenario. Tomorrow you can see that Clyde straight out the traps get a goal, which forces Montrose onto the attack, which then leaves gaps open for Clyde to get another. I'm not saying that's how it's going to pan out, but you do try to play out these games in your head. And as I say, last week against Peterhead, I expected Clyde to win. It was 2-2, but they had a man sent off, and they were 2 up, which sort of does show that they're straight at teams, bang, and score. I think they're well overpriced. I really do. And I think any team that is capable of putting 4 past Queen of the South, 3 past Kelty, warrants respect. Bookmakers aren't giving them respect. That's an insult of a price. Don't care whether it wins or not. You back 3-4 shots with a 45% chance of winning about a team that has yet to win or yet to score a goal, you won't last long in this game. There's plenty of value in this. I'm not saying they're going to win. There's a 69% chance they won't. The figures are stacked against them, but this figure here, that's insulting. It really is. Peterhead's Queen of the South 28-24-48. I think bookies have got this bang on. It's a tough call. Queen of the South by far the better squad. Peterhead by far the better manager. Again, like I always say, first place I always start is with a manager. Wouldn't surprise me if Peterhead won this. They're not rated to win it. There's a 72% chance Queen of the South will win or come away with a draw. But I wouldn't want to be taking 11 to 10. I really wouldn't. It's a tough game to call. I mean, if I had someone had a gun to my head, I would say, yeah, I'd have to back Queen of the South purely on figures. But from a management point of view, it's a no-brainer. Peterhead, got the best manager. Queen's got the best squad. Put Peterhead's manager in charge of Queen of the South. Watch Queen of the South surge up the table. That is how it works. Right, League 2, rattle through these. Annan Stirling, 48-23-29. Annan got a tanking at Dumbarton last week. I know somebody that watched the game. Dumbarton looked to be, again, Dundee, Dunfermline, Dumbarton looked to be the three strongest teams in each of their respective divisions. I think the interesting game in this division at the moment, the way things are shaping up, is going to be Dumbarton against Bonnyrigg. I'm not convinced with Bonnyrigg like some are. They got that victory, didn't they, against Forfar? They got an easy game tomorrow. But I'd like to see how they do when they come up against Dumbarton. I think Dumbarton are the best team, and anyway, we shouldn't be talking about that. I'm sorry, I'm going off on one here. Right, that Annan got a tank in last week at Dumbarton. I'm prepared to overlook it on figures at the moment. I'm going to put it purely down to the class of Dumbarton. Annan turned over Steny, who I did think a fair bit of. I've gone a bit cool on Steny, but anyway, that's by the by. I think Annan should get a result tomorrow. Stirling are capable, make no mistake about that, but I think on the back of that defeat, Annan will be absolutely seething. They don't look to be great on the road so far, Annan. I think they'll get a result tomorrow. 0.25 at 48%. Bonnyrigg Albion, 62-23-15. I think Bonnyrigg got reined in a bit last week away at Stranraer. They turned over Forfar, which I always said was possible on that first game. And then they turned over East Fife. Fife have come out and won since. But Bonnyrigg, I felt Stranraer had a bit of their number last week. That's not to say Bonnyrigg won't win tomorrow, because I would expect them to beat Albion. Albion will put up a scrap. I don't think it'll be a tanking 2-1, something like that. But I'd expect Bonnyrigg to win. It's a no-bet game for us. East Fife Forfar, 36-24-40. I've got a down arrow next to Forfar. I don't normally show these arrows, but I'm not convinced. You can look at the form of Forfar and say, well, they only lost to Bonnyrigg. What are you talking about? It's the fact they needed a major grilling at half-time at home to Stranraer when it was 0-0. And last week they were held at home to Elgin, which on my book reads damn poor. I have to say, they could come to Bayview and turn East Fife over. It's a bit of a derby. There's 0.37 in them. I wouldn't want to be taking it. I'm not saying these are any great team, but Forfar, I just don't trust them. A bit like Steny, you hear the right things, they say the right things, you look at the squad and you think, yeah, that looks a squad, but for some reason it's just not playing as a cohesive unit. The Bonnyrigg won first game of the season. I was prepared to overlook that, but I thought they'd be really hard at it against Stranraer the following week. It was 0-0 at half time, and to be held at home to Elgin isn't championship winning form at any stage of the season. You have to win games like that. There's 0.37 at 40%. It's how you see it. It's a no from me. Anyway, I wouldn't be taking this either. Elgin Stranraer 38-25-37. Tough game to call. I've made good money in the past back in Elgin at Borough Briggs, but there's no value in them this weekend. There's a bit with Stranraer, but if you're taking 0.2 at 37%, you're not gonna, in a game like this, it's not one for involvement. Stenhousemuir Dumbarton 35, 24, 41. I'd have two big red arrows pointing upwards for Dumbarton in this game. I think the performances, especially the performance against Annan, there was stacks of money for Annan mid-season. I mean, early season we took 12-1. They ended up going off 4-1. I mean, I think the 4-1 was far too short, I might add. I can't remember what I priced Annan up at the start of the season, but they weren't as big as 12-1. But the money for them was substantial. But they were really, really put in their place last week. Dumbarton absolutely hammered them. I think Steny are under a bit of pressure coming into this one. Much was expected again, as was it last season. They haven't delivered as yet, and I've not really seen any indication that they would deliver. They struggled with Albion first up, and the two recent performances have been nothing to write home about at all. The defeat at Annan, I think, was acceptable, but the capitulation against Stirling was poor. And that game, you'll look at that and think, well, crikey, yeah, Stirling trounced them. That's not the case. It was a despicable effort from Stenhousemuir last week. I'm not going to say it's manager sacking material, but it's going in that direction. It really is. And they're a team to leave alone. I just think I would expect a response. They have to respond. I mean, if this ends up 3 or 4-0, then he is going to be on thin ice there, particularly with expectations. Dumbarton are the bet if you're going to get involved in this game. But there has to be something from Stenhousemuir tomorrow. There really does. 3-0 away at Stirling is poor performance, because I think Stirling will get turned over tomorrow by Annan. Let's see. Right, let's move on to England, starting the Premier League. There's only one bet here. Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, 46, 23, 31. I think Palace should be 6-5. There's no question about that. I think, 0.42 in them at 46%. I'm going to take that all day long, regardless of which league it is. I think they're quite a decent side. Aston Villa are probably the most overrated team in the Premiership. I look at Aston Villa. It's annoying from a fan's point of view as well, because I think if and I think Dean Smith can feel more than a trifle hard done by. I think Dean Smith performed admirably with Aston Villa, and Steven Gerrard's come in, and look at the amount of money that he's had to spend, and look at the results. Look at Dean Smith's results compared to Steven Gerrard's. There's no big difference there. Yet Gerrard's been awarded millions to spend. I'm told he's upset players with the Mings issue. I'm told he's a popular character at Aston Villa, Tyrone Mings. And I'll say this, I think that Tyrone Mings' time at Aston Villa will last longer than Steven Gerrard's. Not saying that Gerrard's close to the sack, more under the microscope. I think Palace, there's good value. I'm not saying Palace will win, but I think there's good value, and I think they're overpriced. And being overlooked by the bookmakers. The performance against Liverpool last week was good. My only concern, my slight reservation, is I wonder whether Palace are one of those teams that are better going away to a team where they can sit back and the players like Zaha, pace that can hit them. But I mean, you look at that side. I mean, Eze, Elise, they got players that can play football. Palace. I quite like Patrick Vieira. I certainly rate him higher than Gerrard at Villa. Again, somebody else who's found himself in the right position at the right time. League One, Barnsley Wickham 47, 24, 29. Barnsley should be 11-10. They're 7-5. Again, I think it's probably a decent bet at the prices. Barnsley have won both games at home to 0. Wickham have shipped 6 in their 2 away games, losing both of them. Barnsley should be 11-10. They're not. They're 7-5. There's value in it. League 2, Barrow Harrogate. I had this this is a weird one, and I'll tell you for why. Because I tipped Walsall the other night to win at Barrow, because I think Walsall have got a better squad. But when Barrow got that result against Walsall, I backed Barrow to beat Harrogate the other night. I backed them at 13-10. They're 5-4 at the moment, but you'll hear me rave on here about Pete Wild all the time. Fantastic job with Halifax. Moved on to Barrow, and you know, when you managers like him, and managers like Pete Wild, it would just be great, wouldn't it, to swap them over, to put Pete Wild in charge of Aston Villa, put Stephen Gerrard in charge of Barrow. I think those clubs are going opposite directions. I think Pete Wild's a fantastic manager, head coach, whatever you want to call him. Their squad isn't as good as Walsall's, absolutely no chance. But the difference a manager makes is just for Barrow to beat Walsall like they did the other night. That's solely and purely down to one thing. That is the tactical ability and the motivation that comes from the head coach. And you know, there was part of me when I watched that game, it was bittersweet, because although my money was on Walsall, I thought if Barrow get a result against Walsall, they're going to be good things at the weekend against Harrogate, and they did get that result against Walsall, which is why I've 2 points on this. They should be odds on 10-11. They're not. They're 5-4. Pete Wild's a fantastic coach, and that result impressed me, because these are a decent outfit. I don't think they'll be too far away from the playoffs at the end of the season, Walsall. I really don't. And for Barrow to turn them over is an indication of where Barrow are going. And I think they'll beat Harrogate, and I think it's worthy of 2 points. Gillingham Walsall then, 42-23-35. This probably wouldn't be a bet in Scotland. You know, 0.37 at 35. It's not something that, you know, in Scotland would probably interest me, but because we sort of have to look at things slightly different price-wise in English football, because the value isn't as big as what it is in Scotland, the sliding scale in relation to value to rating is different. I think Walsall are back in calmer waters. They've played Stevenage and Barrow in their last 2 games. Stevenage are a decent outfit, and I think Walsall will find this easier. They're not rated to win this game. Gillingham are rated to win this game, but I think 0.37 at 35%. And I think they acquitted themselves well at Barrow. Yes, they didn't get a result, but perfectly happy with the performance. And I think they'll get a well, I'm not going to say I think they'll get a result, because they're not rated to win, but there's enough in the price at the rating to warrant involvement. Swindon Rochdale, 54-24-22. First thing you're probably going to say is, how can you back Swindon in their current form? They've not won a game. Right, let's scratch the surface. Swindon Town have played 2 home games. They've drawn them both. They've played Salford, they've played Leyton Orient, the top 2 teams in League 2. That was a very tough start for Swindon. Now, if you draw at home to Leyton Orient and you draw at home to Salford, and you're then presented with a home tie against Rochdale, and this is a Rochdale side that has lost all 4 of their matches, including both away from home, you start to look at this in a much more favourable light. I think Swindon warrant being odds on. I know they've not won a fixture yet, but as I say, it's not always about winning. It's about the teams you play and your results against those teams. And home draws to Leyton Orient and Salford are good points, and I think there'll be good points come the end of the season. This is probably going to be one, if not the easiest home match for anybody this season. Swindon should be odds on. They're not. They're 21-20. There's 0.25 in it at 54%. The only reason that it's not a 2-point win bet is purely and simply because it's the fact that they haven't won. But you know, as I say, they're in much calmer waters. If you wanted to put 2 points on this, don't let me stop you. But I just don't think it's as good a bet all round as Barrow against Harrogate. But I do expect Swindon to win. That's the bets from England: Crystal Palace, Barnsley, Barrow, Walsall and Swindon. We'll have a quick look at the bets in England and what we've had so far, and we'll come to something interesting. So we had 17 bets, 9 of 1, 52.94. Profit of 7.05, profit on investment of 33.57. That's twice what I'd probably expect, so we're doing extremely well. Just point out this, 2-point win bets, my squeaky chair, we've had 4 of them, all 4 of 1. That offers massive encouragement going forward. Now, just going to come down here, and you can see why. I know this is early stages, and why I'm not a huge fan of the Premier League. I've had 1 win from 3, Championship 1 winner from 4. Although I did expect Preston really to win the other night as well. League 1, 3 winners from 4 selections. Really, really happy with that. And 4 winners from 6 in League 2. These are why, to make money from football, you have to ignore this division. This division's getting like it as well, because it's just becoming ultra competitive. It's not so much the value isn't there in the Championship, it's the competitive nature of the matches. They're becoming really tough fixtures to call, and it's a tough call, whereas the Premier Division, the value is hardly ever there. But these 2 divisions, the same as Scotland, offer up monumental amounts of value. 12-5 about Doncaster the other night was incredible. 9-5 about Peterborough. And, this is not... I'll put the National League results table up in a minute. You can see how poor we're performing there. So it's not just me saying, oh, I'm putting it up just to show we're doing well, because I don't hide anything. Apart from the Scottish stuff, that's for members only. But this, very, very happy with that. Very happy with that also. And this I'm really happy with. If this was the other way round, I wouldn't be so happy. But to see the bets in League 1 and League 2 performing the best is really, really encouraging, because they are the 2 leagues I concentrate on the most in England. Right, let's get on to the National League. Fairly busy weekend. Southend Oldham 45-24-31. 0.3 in Southend. They've yet to win, but their performances warrant backing them at this price. They're well overdue. I think they'll deliver tomorrow. I watched Oldham against Dorking last week, raced into a 3-0 lead, and then I don't know whether they took their foot off the gas or... I've got something to say quickly about Dorking. They're playing Gateshead tomorrow. I priced that game up, and I thought that Dorking looked a decent bet. But I know somebody from Newcastle that follows Gateshead, and he's been very, very impressed. I don't usually take notice of what fans say, because they could be tempted to overrate their team. But he's not a Gateshead fan. He just, he watches the game. He just goes and watches them. He's not a fan. He's a Newcastle United fan. But he told me that Gateshead look a really, really decent team, and he told me that going into a game last week. I think it was against Notts County. He told me they had half a chance, and they didn't get beat. So I trust what he says. And Dorking, as I say, they've come out as a bet on figures, but I'm mindful of Gateshead. But don't let me put you off Dorking if you wanted to bet it. Torquay Borehamwood 38-22-40. It's half a point in Borehamwood. I don't like Torquay. I backed them the other day at Halifax. That's purely because the value was there, and I'm not a fan of Halifax either. Borehamwood are a decent outfit. Yes, they got turned over at home to Aldershot last week, but they were good enough to win at Southend. And Torquay are no Southend United. I think Borehamwood, half a point, 40%. I'm all over it. Wealdstone Halifax 40-23-37. 2 points to win on Wealdstone. I'm having 0.75. Can't believe bookmakers again have got Halifax in as favourites. Quite a lot I say that about teams, but it's their mistake. I think it is a mistake. I mean, there's no way Halifax are 11-8 shots. I think this 6-4, that's 1.5, that's 1.7. I've not got a great deal of difference between these two sides, but it's this figure here that's the only thing that interests me in football. Wealdstone should not be 9-4 for this match. Absolutely no way. They've turned over Bromley, they've won at Oldham, they're playing a Halifax side which, as I say, are in decline as far as I'm concerned. There's 3/4 of a point in Wealdstone at 40%. I'm going 2 points. Whether you want to do that or not, that's up to you. But for me, I think Wealdstone are extremely, extremely good value. And as ever, in certain situations, the more value, the more stake you've got to have on. National League North quickly. Blyth, Gloucester, 27-23-50. Been quite impressed with Gloucester this season. I think they should be shorter than 6-5. It's a fair old traipse up there to Blyth, Blyth Spartans, but I think it'll be worthwhile for Gloucester. There's 0.2 in it. It's not the best, but again, 0.2 at 50%. I'm prepared to back it. Leamington, Spennymoor, 45-24-32. Spennymoor are favourites for this game with bookmakers, which does surprise me somewhat. To me, Leamington have done nothing wrong. They thrashed Farsley here 4-0. They've drawn their other 2 games, including a respectable draw at Kidderminster. And Spennymoor aren't anything special. I fail to see why Spennymoor should be favourites for this game. I think Leamington are favourites. 7-4, about 5-4. It will do for me. Hungerford, Eastbourne, 26-24-50. Let us down last week, Eastbourne, didn't they? They really did. They were winning that game against Bath and threw it away. Maybe it was the heat. Somebody did say that to me, and it's quite possible, but it would have affected Bath as well as Eastbourne. Maybe Bath were just a fitter side, I don't know. I think they can get back on track this weekend. They are 5-4. They're even money on my book. I think that's worth chancing. Hungerford aren't all that, and I think Eastbourne are more than up to winning here. Taunton, Dartford, 23-23-54. Taunton yet to score this season. Dartford, I think, should be odds on for this. I can't remember who they won at first game of the season. I put them up to win Dartford first game of the season. They were turned over at Havant at home last week, but I always say about Havant, I know a lot about Havant, and I always think that Havant are better on the road than at home. I'm actually going to that tomorrow, Havant against Dover. It'll be interesting. I've not seen Dover for a long time. Get to see plenty of Havant, but it'd be a good game to go to tomorrow. Havant, Dover. I think it's a tough one, isn't it? Havant shouldn't be odds on for it. I hope they win, because they're one of my sides. But be interested to see Dover. But again, getting back to this one, Dartford I think should be odds on. They're not. They're 5-4. I'm backing that. Just quickly, the National League table. It's the complete opposite of the English one, isn't it? Really. We're 33% down on profit on investment here. We're 33% up in England. We're 6 down here. We're 7 and something up in England. It's a polar opposite, but it will balance itself out. And as I say, I mean, this alone, they missed a penalty. They were winning. They were winning. They were winning again. All these sides, some last-minute goals, missed penalties, have been extremely costly in the National League. Had we had the rub of the green, this would probably be something like +4 or something. And sometimes you do need that bit of luck when betting. But fingers crossed we're lucky this week. I'm going to Havant against Dover tomorrow. And hopefully we can have a good weekend in Scotland, England and the National League. Just to say, the 2-point win bets have all won in England, and I think 3 from 4 in Scotland have won. And there's 2 2-point win bets for members in Scotland. That's, of course, if you're still watching this video. If you are after 43 minutes, you're a glutton for it. Fingers crossed. If there's anything in the week, I'll put it up on Twitter and we'll do a video then. I've not even looked. I've been so snowed under. That's it. Fingers crossed for a good weekend. Bye for now.